well, before I start, we just would like to play for you a video to situate what we're going to talk about as the refugee agency this morning. So if our colleagues over there could dim the lights and put up the video.
Every 2 seconds, a person is forced to flee. Every day, 44,400 more are driven from their homes. At the end of 2017, the total reached 68.5 million, a new record. Children, men, and women escaping violence and persecution and searching for safety. These are lives, not numbers. The lives of people who pay the price of a world in conflict. 25.4 million refugees among them, nearly 3 million more than in 2016. They have fled across borders, leaving their country behind.
Ma maison, c'était là-bas, auprès de cette montagne-là. Ils sont tous brûlés. Auprès de cette montagne qui sont là-bas, là, il n'y a pas d'une personne. Ils sont tous partis à Congo.
An additional 40 million are displaced inside their own country.
كنا عايشين برعب، كنا عايشين يعني كابوس 3 سنين، اهانه ومذله وماكو يعني كل انواع التعذيب، ما خلوا شيء ما سووا.
Over 2/3 of the world's refugees come from just 5 countries: Syria, Afghanistan, South Sudan, Myanmar, Somalia. Some of these conflicts have dragged on for years. Others have flared recently with dramatic consequences. Last year, deadly violence in Myanmar triggered the exodus of nearly 700,000 Rohingyas who crossed into Bangladesh in just a few months. Behind the numbers lie individual hopes and hardships, not just of the displaced, but also of those who host them. These Congolese children lost their parents in an attack and managed to flee. They walked for more than 2 weeks before Papa Jean and his wife, with 10 children of their own, took them in.
Madame est infirmière. Quand elle est sortie pour chercher un peu de nourriture pour la famille, elle a trouvé ces enfants-là abandonnés à eux-mêmes. Par pitié, elle les a ramenés. Alors j'ai dit non. Nous sommes habitués à héberger les enfants. On a continué avec les autres. C'est pourquoi ils sont là avec nous.
Most displaced people live in or close to the world's conflict zones. So just a handful of countries host the largest refugee populations. Turkey, Pakistan, Uganda, Lebanon, and Iran. With forced displacement at a record high for the 5th consecutive year, a new approach to aiding and protecting refugees is needed, now more than ever. United Nations member states have committed to work towards a global compact on refugees. The compact will come before the UN General Assembly this year. It is a vital way forward. It starts from a hard truth, that refugee situations will exist as long as wars do, and that it may take years before refugees can safely return home. It calls for action from across the international community. And it allows us to harness ideas and innovations from new partners, from the development world to the private sector, who all become part of the solution. This approach prioritizes education for the millions of displaced children and work for their parents. Every day brings proof that their inclusion in host societies benefits all, that asylum is a critical solution which saves lives, and that the power of the human spirit can bridge cultural divides. 1 in every 110 people on Earth is now forcibly displaced. We know the only lasting solution for them is peace. But with solidarity, resilience, and ingenuity, we are building a better way forward, together.
Sure. Thank you for your attention watching that video. It's not easy to hear these stories and see these figures. But what we are talking about is more people than ever before are forcibly displaced as we speak. The UN Refugee Agency works to provide life-saving assistance to support survival, restore hope, and help refugees and forcibly displaced people across the world to find home and find hope again. Now, what we've been doing with NACCW and with the Isibindi model is trying to look at a program which can support community-based protection. It can support the most vulnerable in these emergency situations, which are children. So we piloted in Zambia an Isibindi without borders. We tried to take the model from South Africa, adapt it, and see if we could utilize Isibindi child and youth care workforce in a large-scale refugee settlement in which the majority of people residing there have experienced violent conflict, family separation, and on arrival in a place of safety, only then are they having an opportunity to start recovery. So we piloted a model in one camp in Zambia. We learned a lot very quickly. And now we have taken that model and we are replicating it in a different refugee context in Namibia. So in comparison to Zambia, where we have a settlement in which refugees and asylum seekers are able to move, they are able to have a plot of land to get some gainful economic employment in the area. In Namibia, we have refugees who are encamped. They are in a situation where they do not necessarily have the right to work or the right to freedom of movement, and they must remain inside the camp confines. So last year with NACCW, we took the model again to Namibia. Now, in brief, because we're short on time, I just want to talk about the successes of utilizing Isibindi in a refugee context. We have this means to expand our workforce. We are able to utilize this model in a low-resource area where we have overburdened national systems which are extremely under-resourced and under-capacitated, not only to cope with the refugee or asylum seekers that they are providing care and assistance for, but they're also struggling to provide basic services to their own citizens as well. The child and youth care workers can play a critical role in the identification, registration, rapid assessments, and referrals of vulnerable and at-risk children. But our constraints come in situations where we require a rapid response. If there's going to be a pending influx of thousands of children that may be separated or unaccompanied. States can't necessarily, or at least the states in the Southern Africa region that we are looking at specifically, cannot necessarily absorb these workforces to pay those stipends, to support them and sustain the workforce over time when their resources are already so significantly overstretched. Isibindi as a model is a model of professionalization. As was mentioned in the keynote yesterday, we are not looking to have expert child protection practitioners en masse in these settlements. We are looking for professional child and youth care workers who are highly trained in this discipline and able to work on children's hours. But in order to get to that stage, there's an intensive training and professionalization period, which cannot necessarily be mobilized when you have 72 hours to respond. So what we're learning from what we're trying in Zambia and Namibia, looking at all the lessons learned and the huge successes in South Africa, is we are looking at how we can utilize the Isibindi model in a strategic and efficient way, looking at the timing of it in the refugee journey, from survival to finding home. We recognize that Isibindi may have to be adapted and adapted and adapted to whichever context we're going to. When we look at Zambia from one settlement to another, we may have a situation of protracted displacement versus new arrivals. That's two very different contexts where we will need to think about how best to apply our model. We need to ensure that while we support the rollout of Isibindi and the replications as we go along, that we are responding to the specific situations of refugees. We need to ensure that we have a layered and tiered approach where the child and youth care workers are both supported and supporting. They are able to hand up and escalate cases to more and more specialized staff. The majority of children, the majority of forcibly displaced people do not require specialized or expert support. They require that community level support that child and youth care workers can give. I will now hand over to my colleague Amanda to talk about some of the work that we are doing at a global level with youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Morning. I'm very excited to be back in South Africa. After 6 months away, it feels a little bit like coming home. I was working here for 2 years, so I'm very familiar with the excellent work, and I want to thank you, especially the organizers, but also those of you who are in the field, for the excellent and extraordinary work you do. We are really privileged to be a partner with you as UNHCR, and we think that the commitment and values that you demonstrate day in, day out in your work are those that we need more of. And we need more of them in the settings that Jessica has heard about. We need more of the kind of commitment and professionalization that you bring to your field in our settings. So this is a call and a plea to you to join forces with us. That said, I want to speak a little bit about some of the commitments we have to working with youth. Given that this is a child and youth care conference, we as UNHCR are extremely committed to the empowerment of youth. And I want to speak a little bit briefly about some of the work that we've done, because I think it is in the UN system, in the United Nations system, quite transformative. And I can say that with honesty because I was not there when it was initiated and I've just inherited it. UNHCR had worked in 2006 to develop a policy. And those of you who might know what the way the UN works normally. Normally we get a bunch of people around a room and we sit and we talk and come up with a document. In this case, we as UNHCR have taken the commitment. Actually, can we bring up the video? I mean the picture of our young people, please? If we can bring up the picture. We have committed as UNHCR, it's a good commitment and we try every day to put it in practice, not to do anything for youth without youth. So in 2016, our colleagues developed a consultation with 1,000 young displaced refugees around the world, and based on that came up with what we call as UNHCR the core commitments to youth, our core actions to support youth and to empower youth. And those core actions will be things that are very familiar with you, to you, because these are the core things. These are core things that that we all know are important when we're supporting and empowering youth. Offering skills building and education to young people. Providing opportunities for them to participate and engage with decision makers. Providing emotional and health services. And very importantly, helping young people to network amongst themselves and having data and evidence on young people. So these are our core actions that we are working with, and these are our young people. I wanted to speak a little bit about what we call the Global Youth Advisory Council. UNHCR, as a result of this, one of the recommendations of our consultation is that we need to be better at holding ourselves accountable to those people we work with and for, and whom we serve. So as UNHCR, we have set up a global youth advisor. We've done two things. One is that we've set up youth-funded projects, youth-led projects. And we believe as UNHCR that there should be much more resources and expertise put into supporting youth to identify their needs, design projects to address those needs, and to carry them out. And so as UNHCR, we have committed substantial, not so much substantial, but we are committing funding on an ongoing basis to support young people to lead their own projects. And this is one thing which we think is very important as child and youth care workers, that we're not only there to care for children and youth, but we are there first and foremost to accompany them on their journey to adulthood and to fly. And in order to do that, what do we as adults need to do? Actually, can I see a show of hands of anyone in the room who's under 26? I know we should never do this. Anyone who's under 26? Okay, so most of us are a bit older than that, right? So I'm going to talk to those of you a little bit who are a little older than 26, okay? What does that mean for us? I would say first, the word empowerment, what does it mean? 1 minute left, thank you. It means that we as older people have to let the young people fly and take power. That does not mean that we do not support them, but it means we have to have a partnership. And I think this, as UNHCR with my colleagues, this has been, I think, the most difficult thing, and is the most difficult thing that we are doing, is to really let the young people take center stage. So to give you an example, these young people yesterday were meeting with our High Commissioner. So the UNHCR has the head of our organization is the High Commissioner. They were also meeting with all of the deputies of the departments who are responsible for protection, and they are there, and I am here. And this is what empowerment means. It means us who have privilege and access to opportunities, opening the door and using our power to allow them to speak. So I wanted to say they are here with you in spirit. They apologize for not being here. We do have a video from them that we'd love to show you at some point in the event. So I think if one recommendation I can say as we move forward in this partnership between UNHCR and child and youth care workers is that we think it's very important that together we advocate to have support proper youth workers who know how to work with young people, to support them, and that we have funding to support youth-led initiatives. And we are, together with you, ready to continue to advocate for that. Thank you very much.